Okay, kind of picking up where I left off in my previous video, which I'll link in a card up here, about wrapping text to a curve. Some of the things I didn't get into were some of the basic editing functions for text. So let me go back over here and get into our text again. Okay, I'll go ahead and I'll do my standard phrase here. And we'll go ahead and we'll apply that. That looks fine. It's just your standard text anchored here on X0 and Y0. And everything is fine. And then I showed you that by removing this space and doing a hard return, then hitting apply, we could break that up a little bit. But we can continue this, should you so desire, and give you the ability to break this up even further. And do so by selecting once again, going into break text block into lines, and this gives you 4 separate lines of text. Each one can be manipulated on its own. Now, the thing is, when you do that, if I highlight here, go back into create text, all I'm able to do is edit this single line. So I can come along and make a change my text height to 1 inch, and apply it. It only applies to this line of text. I would have to go back and edit each one of these individually to be able to change all of it, should I so desire. Now I'm going to go ahead, hold down Control, hit Z to undo those changes, and you see I've undone the resize, and then I undid the break them into separate lines. And now if I just click on one portion of the text, all of it is highlighted. If I was to go back in, you can see here now all of it is available to edit. Okay, and I can just do that there, backspace those hard returns out of there and add spaces, hit apply, and it changes my text. Another thing to consider when you're talking about editing your text, what have you, just using a scenario that I used in my previous video on this subject, is, for the sake of argument, your client, your customer comes along and says, well, this is all well and good, but I'm not much for the Times New Roman font. Okay, we can go in and edit it, but there's a couple of things you need to watch out for. I've selected my text, and we can go back in to draw text, and we can change the font. But do know what's going to happen is it's going to undo this text being applied to the curve. Basically, it's going to reset it back down to your anchor point, wherever that anchor point may be. In this case, X0, Y0. So if we decide we're going to change the font to something else, let's just pick one. We're going to come along and change it to something blocky. Let's look at this one here. We can change the font, but the minute I apply it, it takes it off of that curve. Now, that can be good or bad. Number one of the reasons it's good is because any spacing or kerning that we did, any changes we made to this font back when it was Times New Roman, are probably not going to apply to this font. So all of that is going to have to be redone anyway. Second, because this is a sans serif font, meaning it doesn't have those little feet and projections that come out down here at the base, the spacing between the letters is going to be different on this font when we do wrap it to the curve than it was with the Times New Roman. So we'll go ahead and close this, and I have my text selected. Hold down Shift and grab our top arc here, and we will go with above the curve, maintaining the text size and everything else staying the same. I wanted that 1/4 inch offset distance. We'll apply it, and now it's completely different. The spacing is completely different than it was when it was Times New Roman. So I'll have to do a little bit of playing with that and applying that, and come in and do some kerning on our own with the edit text spacing and curve. And we'll come along in here and readjust the space between the letters this way. So that's just something to be aware of. Now that can work to your advantage, because if you, for instance, you've been doing some spacing and you've been doing some moving around and playing around, and you've got this so jacked up you've decided you just need to start over, simply highlight the text, go back into the draw text, and without changing anything, you can just hit apply, and it straightens everything out and brings it right back down to your anchor point, whatever that may have been, and you can start over. So it has its good side and its bad side, but it's something to be aware of. And another thing to get into here is the fact that just because this says wrap text along a curve, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are limited to arcs or Bezier curves to wrap that text to. I'll give you a demonstration of what I'm talking about. Let's go ahead and let's draw some text in here. Take away that space, hard return, sample text, and I'm going to keep everything else. Now let's go back to Times New Roman, because I prefer that font for these demonstrations. And there we go, we're all set, and we'll apply that. Okay. So now again we're going to go ahead and we're going to break the text block into 2 separate lines, so I have that going for me. Now I'm going to move this down here out of my way just slightly. Okay, and now I'll give you a little bit of a demonstration of what I mean by it does not necessarily have to be a curve. Let's just come up here and get into a polyline, and I'm going to draw a diagonal line from about right here. Okay, I clicked back there, bring it up to about, this looks good right here. Now pull my polyline away, and to disconnect from that last point, hit space. Then I'll come down here and I'll make a little bit not quite horizontal line about so long here. Click to make another point and hit spacebar to accept those 2 lines. Okay, and close that up, and so I've got a vector here and a vector here. Now I'm going to apply this text to this vector right here, and I'll do that the same way we did it with the 2 arcs. I'll just select my text, hold Shift, select the vector, wrap text along the curve. I'm going to do it right on the curve this time, so that this line runs through the center of my text, and I'm going to go with a 0 offset distance. I still want it to align to the middle of my curve, and I want it to align to the curve so that this text kind of points in this direction out here. I am going to maintain text size right now because I want to see what this looks like. So let's just go ahead and apply it. And as you can see, it moved my text up here and it centered it along this line. Now, I kind of like that. I think I'm going to keep it that way. So without even closing the text on a curve form, I'm just going to click off to the side to deselect these. Then I'll go along and I'll pick up this text and holding down Shift, select this vector. My form kind of lights up. I want to do something a little bit different. Let's go ahead and let's space this text, scale it to fit this curve. I still want it on the curve. I don't want an offset distance. I still want it aligned to the middle, and I still want I want to keep the text vertical so that it runs straight up and down no matter which direction this curve runs. And let's apply and just see what it looks like. Well, okay, I have my scale text to fill the curve set pretty low. So let's go ahead and bring this up some. Keep going here. Let's bring that all the way up to 100%. Okay, I'm not exactly horizontal. I kind of like the way that looks. Let's apply that, close it. Now from here it's a simple matter of going back, holding down Shift to select both of my lines, delete them. Then we've got our text placed and applied to these directions. And that's all well and good. It looks great. We can do whatever we want if we want to add some more artwork here or put some down inside or what have you. But this is just an example that you're not bound to using curved vectors when you use wrap text along a curve. As a further example of this, if you want to get a little bit artsy, we'll delete our text here. And I'm going to come up and I'm going to draw a rectangle. I'm going to anchor it on my X0, Y0, and I'm going to make it 5 inches by 5 inches and create that rectangle. Okay, now we can close it, and now I'm going to select that rectangle, type N on my keyboard to go into node editing, and we see we have our 4 points here. I'm going to separate this into 4 distinct separate vectors here, and by choosing a point, right click, cut vector. And I'll come up here, do the same thing, cut vector, do this in all 4 corners so that I have 4 separate and distinct vectors to work with. Okay? Now I'm going to go back into node editing mode here, and I'm going to make sure that I'm going to make this my start point here. Now what I'm going to do is each one of these lines traveling in a clockwise direction, I'm going to make sure that the start point is to this side. So I'll come up here and select this vector, make this my start point, select this vector, make this my start point, select this vector, and make this my start point. Okay, now click off to deselect, right click to get out of node editing mode. Now I'm going to play around with my text. So we'll go over here into my draw text. Again, I've chosen Times New Roman, and we'll play around a little bit here. This hard return is hard return. Sample hard return. Text. Everything else I'd like to keep. We'll click apply, and we have our text down here. Now I'm going to move it down here out of the way a little bit so I can see my square, all my vectors up here, and select my text, right click, break text block into lines. So I have 4 separate lines of text. Now we'll get a little bit artsy with this. I'll select this line of text, hold down Shift, select this vector, apply it to a curve. I want to maintain the text size on this one. I want it above the curve. Let's go with 1/8 of an inch, 0.125, and I want it aligned to the middle, and I want it aligned to the curve. Let's apply, and we have our text applied sideways. Without exiting the form, we'll select this text, select this vector, make sure that nothing has changed. I want to keep everything the same, and apply that text. Then we'll come along and pick this one and this one, carry on, everything's the same. Then finally grab this one, grab this vector, and apply the text to that curve. Now with this one here, I think they kind of look a little funny, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to scale the text to fill the curve, but I'm going to bring it down slightly. I don't want to go completely 100% the length of the curve. And then the same thing over here. I'll select these as well, and I'm going to scale them to fit the curve. Let's see, apply that, and that's a little bit big. Let's bring that down to about 89 as well. Apply that. So I have, it gives the appearance of the text getting progressively larger as we go around my square here. And then we'll come back, grab this. This I'm going to leave as is. I'm not going to touch this, but I am going to come along, grab this text, this vector, and I'll scale it to fit the curve, but I'm going to bring it down to about 55. Apply. Now that's too much. Let's bring it down a little bit more. Little bit more. There we go. Let's just leave it that. It's an extreme example, but the point is being made. So I've taken all of this text, applied it to 4 separate vectors that I created from a square, and now I'm able to put a little bit of artwork in here to kind of bring this design out a little bit. I can select everything by drawing a box around it and move it up over here into this corner. A logo could be created from this for the sake of argument, and that gives you room for other information or other artwork down here. But my entire point in all of this is that just because this icon says wrap text along a curve doesn't mean that you are wedded to the concept of using something that is curved, not square. You can apply these same principles to just about any shape that you can come up with. So just another thing to consider when you're getting in and designing your patterns and creating your carvings. Now the last point I want to get into is it's less about VCarve than it is about maintaining your own sanity. And that is over here, the icon is called Draw Text. The window that opens up is called Create Text, but nowhere does it call itself a word processor. So as a result, if I go in and type and I have a spelling error, like the way I totally horked up the word sample here, I've got no indication that I misspelled it. And as I said, there's few things more frustrating than discovering a spelling error after you've cut into a $100 piece of wood. So what I tend to do with things of this nature here, it's just easier for me, unless it's a real ultra simple sentence or something, is I'll go ahead and I will use a word processor. So for this example where I've just totally messed up that word completely, I'll go ahead and hold down Control and type the button X to cut that out of this screen editor here, or a text editor, excuse me, and open up my word processor and paste it over here by holding down Control and typing the letter V and paste it into my word processor, and I have an indication right off the bat that I've got a spelling problem here. So I can right click and correct my spelling. Go back and do the correct capital. This is especially the case when it comes to names. Now, even I never assume anything. Even with the simplest name, I always want to double check the spelling. And the easiest way to do that is to have the client/customer just email me exactly what you want carved into the project. That way, if Susie Smith, that way if Susie Smith comes along and orders a sign and she wants her name in the middle of it, she can tell me how she spells her name, because discovering that she spells it S-U-Z-Y after I've already cut into a piece of material is just too late. And as I said, it can get frustrating, it can get expensive, and it can be real embarrassing. So the easy way to avoid that is I just have them email me exactly what they want carved into the sign. Then I'll just copy and paste it out of the email. And that's simple enough to do. Just highlight the text, hold down Control, type the letter C for copy, get out of the email program or word processor, come over here into the text block, click inside the box, hold down Control, type the letter V, then let go, and we can do all of our modifications down here, and Susie Smith can have her name spelled the way she wants it. But by having the customer or client provide you with exactly what they want, V-carved or engraved or machined into a project, you take the responsibility for misspellings away from yourself. So, it's just a little one man's opinion, my 2 cents on an easy way to maintain your sanity when working with VCarve to avoid costly errors. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up here, and we'll call this topic a done deal. So hope you've gotten something out of this video. If you have, I'd appreciate a thumbs up down there, and you might consider subscribing to my channel. That way you'll be notified whenever I post a new video. But whether you subscribe to my channel or not, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch, and you have a good day.